For the holiday season, if you are a long time listener to my channel, I actually talked about this way back in the day. DC Comics, for a time there, they did this series called DC Showcase. And they did a whole series of them. I got a bunch of them. It was Dan DiDio trying to like break out of the comic book stores and get DC Comics in the hands of people in like Walmart, basically. So that's where they were sold. They were sold in Walmart. The idea is a good one. Let's kind of do like the Archie Digest kind of thing where we put together a collection of some of our greatest stories, sell them in like sort of in a grocery store. You know, they went to Walmart, but the same idea. But it never really caught on because Walmart stocked them over like next to the Magic the Gathering cards, like in this special little collector's area that only people who were already into comics would go to and look at. If they'd have placed these like in the aisles of the checkout lanes, they might have gotten a lot more kids interested in it. The other problem with the DC Showcase titles is that, I'll show you one. Let's see. Here's some Superman ones. Got a bunch. Like here's an example. DC Showcase Superman. And they each one would have one news story, kind of like the Archie Digest do, the Archie Double Digest do and whatnot. But then they have snippets of other classic stories, and you'd have to come back each month and buy the next one. So this one's number 6 in the Superman Showcase they did. So to get the complete stories, if you didn't have the complete stories in the original comic somewhere, or you wanted the new story that they were printing, you'd have to go back and buy these. So a decent idea. One thing I didn't like about it, though, is they would smash together, like sometimes you get like really crappy New 52 Superman stories in with some of the classic Superman stories, which is just like, no, that's garbage. I'm not interested in that old crap, you know? So they didn't always really combine the best of. But you did get some really great stuff. You did get some new stories that were written really cool and really well. The one I'm talking about that I'm going to recommend tonight is the DC Showcase World's Greatest Superheroes Holiday Special. And not all of the stories in this are great. There's one story that's kind of there's 2 stories that I'm just not interested in at all. But the other stories are so freaking good. If you don't have these in the classic runs that they came in, you really owe it to yourself to pick this up. They're wonderful. It starts out with a news story from The Flash by Scott Lobdell, which isn't bad. It's kind of like, okay, but you get the feeling like you've read that story somewhere before. It's sort of ish based on like the Christmas episode of the JLA. But it's a decent Christmas story, you know, whatever. It's fine. The next story, though, is one of the greatest Superman stories that's ever been written. It's Metropolis Mailbag from the classic Dan Jurgens run. This was the continuity when Superman and Lois were engaged. And or Clark Kent and Lois were engaged. And it's a Christmas issue. And this is a complete one because this one's a DC Showcase, so all of these are standalone stories. They're not ones that you have to go and collect. But Metropolis Mailbag, you can either try and find a used copy of this or just go back and find the original issues of, I can't remember if this was in Superman comics or Action Comics back in the 90s, but you can find the Metropolis Mailbag story. And the idea behind the story is that Superman, every year at Christmas, he tries to answer letters that people from all over from the world would write to him asking for help. And it's kind of a pain. He doesn't like doing it at first because a lot of people would just write to him with like, hey, I've got a get rich quick scheme. If you could help me locate some oil, we could both benefit and profit from this, you know? And it's like, I'm Superman. I don't do that kind of stuff, you know? And like college students asking him, you know, if you crushed a lump of coal, you could get some diamonds. Make sure you send me some, you know? And he's like, that's not what I'm here for. But then the other reason why it hurts him to answer these letters sometimes is because sometimes it's stuff that he can't always help with. The first lady that he meets is a Auschwitz survivor, and she's just recently learned that her sister is alive in a German nursing home or whatever, but she's too old and low income and she can't get there, and he helps her get there to reunite with her sister, you know, and he's talking to Lois. He's like, these are the things, this is why I do this. These are the reasons why. No, I probably can't help a lot of these people. A lot of these letters are probably, you know, insincere or asking for the wrong things. But if I can just help one person like that, it's worth it. It's such true blue Superman. It's really great. I won't ruin the whole story for you, but I'll just give you the setup for the real big deal. A young boy writes to him and asks him, can you take away my daddy's cancer? All right. So his dad has a tumor in his brain. And he's like, you can do anything. You're Superman. So I just want to see if you can do it. and he's looking at Lois. He's like, this is so hard. He's like, I can't do that. You know, he's Superman. He's not a doctor. He's not a healer. So he decides to go and talk to the boy anyway to try to explain to the boy that he doesn't want the boy to feel like he's just been abandoned, you know, and everything. And I'm going to give the whole story. So I'm going to give a little bit more of the story. By the time Superman gets there, the boy's father had already passed. So the boy's angry, but Superman talks to his mother and talks to the boy even. And there's a really amazing ending where Superman brings a lot of peace to this family. He helps some other people that really need it by bringing peace to this family. Amazing story. If you talk to like longtime Superman readers, they know this story. It's a classic Superman Christmas story. It's just one of the greatest ones. Metropolis Mailbag. It's so inspirational. It's so absolutely, that's the character. That's our iconic Superman, you know, beautifully represented art, you know, and everything. The pages for these DC showcases were great. The page quality felt like sort of old newsprint almost. So it's a really heartwarming Christmas story. Really great. There's a Supergirl story, which kind of piggybacks up from the idea of that, which is pretty good. Not nowhere near as good as the Superman one, you know, but it's not bad. There's a Batman story in here that came from the DC Batman Rebirth era, in which it's a story of how Batman first got Ace the Bat-Hound. And it's a really great story. Alfred, you know, takes this problem dog, you know, with this horrible, tragic, you know, treatment in the past, and is taming him and everything and allowing him to be a pet for Bruce. It's really great story. That's another good one. There's a Batwoman story that you can just skip. I don't know. I'm just not a Batwoman fan. Unless it's in a story where she's sort of aiding Batman in some way. Like the Detective Comics Rebirth. I really like those because Batman was asking her to sort of head the team of a lot of his allies. You know, spoiler, Robin and so forth. Clayface was even trying to be a hero at that point, so that was really interesting stuff. But in general, I'm just not a Kate Kane fan on her own as a hero. There's a Harley Quinn story, which I loathe this era of Harley Quinn. The red and black hair and the like, OMG, I'm totes so random as a hero. Like, I hate that Harley Quinn. Hate it. So I'm not really interested in that. But then the final story is a really great one. This also came from the DC Rebirth era with the two new Green Lanterns that they had. Baz and Jessica, was it Valdez or Vesquez? I forget her. She's Hispanic descent. And she's inviting Baz over for a celebration of the Epiphany. They're going to make a king's cake, and, you know, it's a Catholic celebration because she's Hispanic. And it's a story. If you know the holiday of the Epiphany, it's the idea of when the three wise men came to baby Jesus. And this story is about these three aliens, these three sort of wise men aliens seeking out Jessica and Baz to for these challenges, you know. So it's a really interesting sort of smartly done take on the Feast of the Epiphany, and really great. It's a wonderful story. It's a solid way to sort of end a holiday issue because it takes place on the Epiphany. So, like I said, most of the stories in here are absolutely worth reading. Few of them, maybe you'll like one of the ones I didn't, you know, whatever. You can give it a chance to see what you think. But really good stuff. So I recommend this too if you can get your hands on a used copy of the DC Holiday Special Showcase, or you can just go back to the original runs that these stories were printed in, and you know, you should be able to find it if you look up DC Showcase Holiday Special. You'll find a list of all the stories that are in there, and you'll be able to find which issues they were in. Pick them out of your long box. It's really great. It's good stuff. I'm gonna wrap things up here, but I just want to check in with a few more comments. Samuel Proctor says, I have a 70s Batman Christmas book, Batman 239. Batman helps a criminal dressed as Santa turn a new leaf. In a mysterious one-horse sleigh is involved. I've read that story. It's a really great one. Excuse me. Yeah, there's some great... The 70s are wonderful. You know, I'm doing the 90s with the Batman stuff. I think I'm going to dial it back to the 80s with Superman and start going through the John Byrne era. But yeah, I'd love to dial it back to the pre-crisis 70s days too, because they're wonderful. They've got some wonderful stuff. Yeah, Studio 96 recommend. Yeah, I have the movie. I haven't watched it yet, but I have the film. And do I have the comics? I don't know if I have the comics, but the movie is in my pile there. I just need to watch it. You guys have a good one, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.